Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfback Dynasty. My name is Brendan. We are joined today with our co-host, Tyler, legendary Gator Sens. Tyler, how the heck you feeling, my man?
Feeling great, Brendan. Just a little Saturday here, watching a little Ghost Adventures. Got hot ticket tonight in Colorado. The Avs looking to go up 3-0, heading to the Stanley Cup here pretty quick, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I don't know much about hockey, but I do know that the Tampa Bay Lightning are pretty good, my man. Pretty good. How do you feel about them?
Tampa's great, man. I mean, you're in their third Eastern Conference final in a row, chance to go to the Cup 3 years in a row, chance to win it 3 years in a row. Any sport, that's doing it right. But in professional sports, that's crazy.
I agree.
You're not supposed to be able to repeat anymore in pro sports. So it's good stuff, man.
Which leads me to this episode and every episode, Tyler, building a dynasty team. We are here to help you create a dynasty team so you have a chance to win again, and then win a third time. And then most likely you're probably going to have to rebuild because let's be honest, every dynasty comes to an end unless you are very good at turning your roster. So Tyler, I wanted to let the folks know we've been discussing, we're working on a Patreon. We're working on upping our social media content, our podcast content. We're going all in. Folks, please stay tuned. We are going to start developing a lot of things for you. We're taking it to the next level. It's a halfback dynasty type of summer, my man. But I wanted to talk about which running backs, which wide receivers, and which, I don't like talking about tight ends, so we'll leave that out, and which quarterbacks you should buy on your dynasty roster if you are contending this year. How do you feel about that topic, Tyler?
Well then, man, it's a tricky one. And I'll try and focus a little bit on vet, a little bit on youth. I think there's a nice balance between the two, between price, risk, and safety, really.
Absolutely. So in what situation would you actually buy veteran players? And just, throwing out random assets, what would you typically be willing to give up? Because in today's day and age, people value youth over winning championships, if I'm being honest with you. People value having that sexy roster of all young assets who hopefully turn into your Justin Jefferson, your Jonathan Taylor, but they leave out guys who produce, such as Austin Eckler or Keenan Allen. So how do you gauge when you should buy a vet, and what are you typically willing to give up?
Starting with the vets, I think if you're a legit, you and I have talked about this so many times, you have to look at your roster with not rose-colored glasses. You have to be very, very sure you're a top 3 team, a legit out-and-out contender to buy veterans, because let's be honest, you said it perfectly. Keenan Allen, fantastic wide receiver within your lineup, isn't worth much of anything. You'd be lucky to get a first rounder for him. You're not getting a first rounder in 2023 because of the hype of the class. But is he worth a first? 100%. The guy averages 15 points a game in most settings. So, I think you got to be very honest with looking at your team, because you're never going to get any return for these guys on the market. So, we'll stick with the vets to begin. If you're a legit out-and-out contender at quarterback, I don't think there's anybody better you could buy in a single or super flex, 2 QB, whatever. Tom Brady. He's not worth anything at all in any format, especially a 1 QB. I would think from a straight rebuilder, you could maybe get him for a third, maybe. But even in super flex 2 QB, if it's a rebuilding team, you should easily be able to land him for a random second. And arguably Tom Brady could be the number 1 scoring quarterback again, so he's a guy at QB. I don't think there's a better buy in all of Dynasty at quarterback than Tom Brady for a legit contender. Aaron Rodgers sticks out a little bit, but I think even his name value is still a little bit higher in Brady. I don't think it should be. I mean, Aaron Rodgers talks about retiring every other week. So who knows how long he really has. Tom Brady could be around longer. I know everybody says Brady's done after this year. I don't know why that's the case. But, if you're a legit contender with a 2-3 year window, go get Brady for dirt cheap. And, if he wins you a title this year, great. And if he plays a few more years, that's just an added bonus. So.
Even better. I mean, you're not giving up that much to acquire him. I think an important topic to discuss when talking about veterans and being able to buy players that help you win on a contending team is you have to prey on people's fears of players hitting that cliff and just losing value. So if we look at Tom Brady right here, I just pulled up one of my leagues, and it's a very aggressive scoring system, a lot of bonuses. It's a 1 quarterback league, but if you throw a 25-yard touchdown, you get this much bonus, 50-yard touchdown, that much bonus, etc. Last year, he finished as quarterback 3, right? 2021 quarterback 3, 2020 quarterback 7, 2019 quarterback 11, 2018 12. 2017, 4, 2016, 18, 2, 9, 14. If we look at the last 5 years, he's been a QB1, and yet his value has been the same the last 5 years. And it's just cheap, very, very consistent production that you could get for nothing. So Tom Brady is a fantastic option to buy as a contender. Just to throw out a random player, what type of wide receiver or what type of running back would you be comfortable selling if you had the assets to do it, to acquire Tom Brady? A 1-for-1.
I mean, if you were again, a legit out-and-out contender, have a great roster, you're stacked everywhere, you have the depth. I think it's an overpay, but you see a guy right now like Rashod Bateman.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's an overpay, but you got to look at it from the other side too, is what makes these kind of trades tough. Brady isn't worth much, but does a random, likely late second make a difference to a rebuilding team? They might just say, I'd rather sell him in season. But if you throw out Rashod Bateman, who we don't know if he's going to produce, but his name holds way more value than a random second. But is he worth more than a random second? It depends on the league, but for a lot of people, no. But that looks way better to a rebuilding team. You're getting something right now. You're getting somebody that is arguably the team's wide receiver 1. So I think that's a great point, Brendan, that with all the stuff we talk about our own leagues, everybody gets so frustrated when they're dealing with the team that's rebuilding. You have to make it appealing for them as well. Everybody is so focused on their side of the trade. More often than not, for the league and for both managers, it's better to make a trade that makes sense. I know a lot of people just want to kill somebody in a trade.
Yep, the good old fleece.
Yep, and I don't think that's good for the league or for either manager, because you might be, maybe not knowingly, you might be eliminating 5 teams from your league that are like, I'm not going to trade with that guy. Why would I waste my time? So again, somebody like Rashod Bateman feels a lot better to a rebuilding team than a second.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're stacked, Bateman doesn't mean anything to your roster. He's a replaceable wide receiver. He's a replaceable young wide receiver. He's just hype right now. We don't know if he's good. And again, if he turns into WR8 next year, you got to live with it, move on.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you paid up then and won the championship by that. So sure. I agree. Rashod Bateman is a great asset right now. However, he still hasn't proven much. So I've got him in a few.
We don't know if he's good.
Yeah, exactly. I hope he's good, but Lamar Jackson really isn't that accurate or good at throwing the ball. So that's a name that I hope we talk about in the future, more so on the positive side of the coin than negative. So
and another guy like a Mooney, somebody like that QB is iffy. I mean, call it what it is. We don't know if Fields is good, has great, solid value, but do we know if he's great? No, we don't. But to a rebuilding
team,
team,
he's not great, Tyler. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, for a rebuilding team, Mooney would be like, yeah, I'll make that trade right now. You know,
Agreed.
you got to
Agreed.
look at it from both sides. Is kind of my main point here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think I would honestly give up Mooney for Tom Brady.
If
And
it wins you a title, it's worth it.
yeah, if I need a quarterback like really badly, I'd give up Bateman if I needed a quarterback badly too. The value on top scoring quarterbacks, like I feel like it's really increased your advantage. The elite scorers to the non-elite scorers, like the threshold, like I don't know. I feel like there's bigger teardrops, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Huge, man.
And you basically need a stud quarterback to win, even in a one quarterback league. However,
Agreed.
the disparity between like 1 and 6 might not be as much between like 6 and 7. So you just got to make sure you have a just good enough guy filling in the QB position is what I'm starting to learn. So
yeah, and I think you and I are unique in the sense that obviously yours and my big league is heavy QB, even though it's a 1 QB. I think the argument of quarterbacks don't matter in a 1 QB is incredibly overplayed. It's not accurate. I don't know what leagues all these people play in, but it's sure not like any I've ever played in,
Yeah.
Like you're not getting Herbert for a third. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
But you read these things, it's like, oh, I wouldn't offer more than a second. It's like, come on.
You're a top 3 quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play in these leagues, but apparently they're out there.
Yeah, those are the leagues that you want to be in, and you could win probably pretty easily.
Right.
So good pick. I like the Aaron Rodgers pick as well. Let's move on to running back. I'm going to throw out a name that is probably very common in terms of running backs that you should buy if you're a contender, just because this particular player has probably hit the cliff of their value. And again, completely different story in redraft when you're focused on 1 year to Dynasty, where there's a chance that this guy could retire on your team. My choice for running back is going to be Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's value is probably lower than it's been the past 3 years. I think that an injury that occurred of that caliber on a running back who is that old and who's had that many touches in their NFL career the past few years, there's a lot of people that are pessimistic about Derrick Henry's ability. And we know running backs go downhill very quickly. Does he have 1 more year in him? I'd hope so. But he's a guy I would look to purchase for maybe like a late first-round pick. I don't even think I could give up a 2023 first-round pick for Derrick Henry, even if I'm contending. That's how much I value 2023 picks. But if I could get him for a receiver like, I don't know, Mike Evans, I would probably do it. I'd probably do it. How do you feel about Derrick Henry, and would you be a buyer if you really needed him?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a good place to start. I think Derrick Henry, based on what we saw last year pre-injury, I think is the important part to look at as a contender. Derrick Henry still looked like a good running back. I mean, I think he finished in the top 15 and he missed like 8 weeks. So he was still,
I think he was top 5 after
he was
for like
beyond,
5 weeks.
beyond dominant. So Henry sticks out to me, which in the opposite, you look at somebody like Zeke who, played all season, supposedly had injuries, but looks just toast. I would rather gamble on Henry versus a guy like Zeke that might cost the same amount. But, Zeke looked way worse to me last year than Henry did. And so, you can factor in those things as well, like who actually looked good versus who has a name that might look good on your roster in the off season, but what are they really going to add, in season? And, another guy would be Aaron Jones. I mean, I think he'd be cheap because everybody's terrified of AJ Dillon, who, I pointed this out a few times. AJ Dillon, when Jones was not in the lineup, really wasn't that good because I think Dillon is a guy kind of like an early young Kamara that needed somebody else in the lineup that was a change of pace that helped him, but didn't give him an entire workload. Kamara, when he had Ingram early on, was a beast. It took years for Kamara to be able to handle being the guy. And I think AJ Dillon's the same way. He was not as effective without Jones in the lineup. And I think Aaron Jones could be the cheapest you could possibly get. Comes with risk because of Dylan, whereas Henry comes with risk with age, but he's got nobody on that depth chart that's going to do anything to possibly take his job this year. Nobody.
The only thing is injury, like risking injury
sure.
again. That'd be the only thing to sideline him.
Yep.
So,
but again, it comes with risk, but all of buying any aging player in Dynasty comes with risk, because when it's over, and you might not see it coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that even if you take away a quarter of Derrick Henry's touches, he's still probably a pretty good buy.
Yeah, still good. Yeah, still good.
Cool. Some other names I'd like to toss out there that have been very popular trade candidates amongst all the leagues, because people aren't as attached to these guys, but they provide great production for a very cheap price. James Conner has been very sought after in a lot of leagues. I've seen people buy him for a second-round pick. That's not bad at all. If you're contending, a second-round pick for a starting running back who hopefully doesn't experience a touchdown regression, but I think he probably will, as always. Leonard Fournette as well, coming off a big season. They could put up another huge season this year, and I guarantee you their value won't increase at all. So I think that if you're going for a no running back strategy in a startup, I would target those guys, and you could fill them in this year and probably still look pretty good. So
yeah, two good names there. And then in the opposite, I wouldn't go after somebody like Eckler, who, had a career year. He's older, but you're going to be buying him extremely expensive. And, I think Spiller takes carries from Eckler this year as the season goes on. So, smart buys are possibly Henry, James Conner, Fournette. Not smart buys, even as a contender, are Eckler, because based on the season he had, a rebuilding team might demand an early first plus. And I'm sorry, even as a contender, if you buy Eckler and that first turns into, if it's not yours and that first turns into Bijan Robinson, not good. Not good.
Yeah.
So those are the veterans I don't think you even touch as a contender. It's just not worth it. He's going to be 27. It's coming off a career year. That's just a bad investment, in my opinion.
I wish you would have told me that about a month ago when I bought Eckler in a league for the 104, which I think turned into, like Burks or something. But I'm okay with it.
That's also the difference in class. The 104 in this class is not the 104 in 2023. So Burks for Eckler as a contender, I'd rather have Eckler. I'm not a Burks guy.
Yeah, I think that's what the pick turned into. But yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. And if you're going to buy Eckler for 2 firsts, you could probably get very close production for James Conner or Leonard Fournette paying up only 1 first. So there's a way to navigate dynasty football, and you have to continuously be crafty, and you have to realize that there's always going to be another option to acquire. It's just like when somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I'm interested in this player. You bet I'm going to throw that player on the trade block in the league chat just to say, hey, you know what? Somebody's got an offer out for this. Well, I might not say that publicly, but I'm going to see what else is out there. I told you when we were making that deal, I forgot who it was in regards to. You inquired about someone, and I made it clear like, hey, I'm going to see if someone else will offer me anything. But I was straight up.
I think it was your first. I think it was
the first.
Yeah.
I think it was the 2 first-round picks. Yeah, but I mean, hey, I was straight up and suggesting like, I'll let you know if I will take yours or if I won't, just to give you another chance to pay up for them. But yeah, it's foolish. It's foolish not to try to maximize. So Tyler, just know if you ever hit me up for a player, I DM multiple league mates, seeing if they're interested in that said player. And you could say it's greasy, but it's smart, man.
Oh, it's not, man. I say it every day on DLF for rebuilding teams. They're like, hey, should I take this? And it's like, hey, the offer's not bad, but shop to the entire league. Make sure you maximize what offers you have, what options you have, because you might make a trade thinking, oh, that's okay. And then somebody hits you up and is like, hey, man, I would have traded this. It's too late. Shop as a rebuilder. We're talking about contenders, but as a rebuilder, shop and don't force it. your team doesn't need to look like how you want it in June. And you might get, the tough thing is waiting in Dynasty, you might get way more in season for your aging vets, and nobody wants aging vets in the off season. Nobody.
Yeah.
So
the people that want them the most are the ones that have injured players.
Yeah, show patience. Even if Zeke doesn't look good, a contending team that loses 3 running backs in the first 2 weeks might be like, what do you want for Zeke?
Yeah, they might give up one of those injured young running backs too. You never know. So cool. Great options. Let's discuss a few wide receivers. Who are a couple of veteran wide receivers that you'd be okay buying at a lower price if that meant filling in some of your roster spots to help you contend?
Well, you already stole my steam a little bit here, Brendan. Number one for me is Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen hasn't been valuable, you could maybe say, ever. And, I still see it on forums where people say he's injury prone. Dude's played every game or close to every game for like 4 or 5 years. I understand very early in his career, he missed back-to-back years. You got to move on from that. I think he's shown he can play. He can stay healthy. He's arguably the best producing wide receiver for the price. And the other one that sticks out is somebody that you said you'd be okay flipping as a contender. I'd also be okay buying Mike Evans because I think for what you get, he's cheap. You could probably do a late first. I mean, I see it all the time on the forums, and nobody values Mike Evans. Nobody wants Mike Evans. There's just guys in Dynasty, for whatever reason, people don't want. We can even go back to a guy we were talking about, Aaron Jones, for years. He was a RB3, RB7, and still nobody wanted him. There's just people that they just aren't as exciting, or they're just not as, I don't know what it is. People just don't want them. So Evans and Keenan Allen stick out heavily for me. I think Keenan Allen is the better buy because I think he's more consistent. You will have to live with Mike Evans getting 45 points and then 6, 3, 8, 39. He's just all over, depending on when Chris Godwin. I mean, Tom Brady, I think, showed Chris Godwin is his desired receiver last year. So you got to live with the up and downs. But yeah, Mike Evans has maybe the best red zone opportunities. That's where he does his damage. Whereas
the 1-yard touchdowns.
Whereas Keenan Allen probably isn't going to get you many 100-yard games, but he's going to have 10 grabs for 91 or 8 grabs for 68 and a touchdown, So he kind of balances out, but is way more consistent. So
yeah, I like those two options. I actually bought Mike Evans for the 110 in a league, and I was shocked. I mean, that
just shows nobody wants him.
That's cheap.
Nobody wants him,
Yeah. So
yeah, the 110 this year, what are you going to get for that? Rashod White. I mean,
yeah, nothing good. Sky
Moore, who's the new CEH.
Yeah, Sky Moore for sure. So just to throw out some names of players right around the rankings. I try to cross-check rankings around Mike Evans and Keenan Allen. Which player would you rather have on a contending team? And just for the sake of this exercise, imagine that you're healthy and well-stocked at each position. You don't need one position more than the other, okay?
Okay.
Would you give up Josh Jacobs for Keenan Allen?
No, just because running backs are so much harder to find. Do I think Keenan Allen outscores Jacobs? Yes, I do. But there's always the what if Jacobs hits. I think the value is fair. Most people probably don't. I actually think Keenan Allen's the way better player, but no, running back's too hard to find. I would want to make that trade, but I don't think I could. Because as a contender, you could go out, probably find a wide receiver easier than if you lost 2 guys and now all of a sudden Jacobs is your RB1 instead of your RB3 or 4, you're in trouble.
A lot of trouble.
No. Yeah, so
You'll be buying some vets. You'll be buying.
Yeah, but I would want to make that trade, but I think I don't think you do.
Okay, now let's entertain the idea that if you're contending and you're buying a vet off of a rebuilder, they want a younger asset. Would you
Sure.
be comfortable giving up Amon-Ra St. Brown for Keenan Allen?
Yes. As an out and out contender, yes.
Okay.
Way less risk with Allen this year.
Okay. Now check this one out. This is going to be a big one right here. Would you be comfortable giving up Jerry Jeudy for Keenan Allen if you're contending?
If you're a smart owner, yes, I would. If you're me, no, I wouldn't do that. Fortunately, I have them both in our big league, but yeah, I think that's a trade you don't make now as a contender and coming out of next year. If Judy busts again, you're like, that was just stupid, because that is the other side, even as a contender, that, oh, if Judy hits, he's young, he's going to be so valuable. So a smart owner, yes. Me, no.
Sure.
But yes, Keenan Allen he's Jerry Jeudy isn't even in Keenan Allen's league.
I agree.
Close,
He could be with, his route running is supposed to be on par with Keenan Allen, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, there's hope for Jeudy finally, but he's not Keenan Allen.
It's a big year for him. Big year. All right. So a few other names I'd like to throw out there in addition to Mike Evans and Keenan Allen, just for the people kind of looking for some more obscure names. I guess not really obscure, just not as thought about right now, that maybe have sunk below that cliff. Obvious one that still everyone knows of, but doesn't like to touch, Brandon Cooks. I mean, it doesn't get much more obvious than that. Adam Thielen is another guy that I think is still going to be capable of having a good year. And hear me out. We're sinking super low to pull this one out. You ready? Kenny Golladay. I'm feeling a season for Kenny Golladay. It doesn't even have to be a big season. You could buy him, I bet you, for a 3rd round pick right now.
Yeah,
I would give up any 3rd round pick for Kenny Golladay right now because we've seen him do it. We know that he was getting angry and was showing a lot of discontent with the G-men last year. He wants the ball. And I think that he has potential to at least be a wide receiver too. And if you spend a 3rd round pick on a wide receiver too, that's a win, man. What do you think?
Yeah, Cooks is a great one. Nobody wants Cooks. He's probably extremely cheap. Yeah, I mean, if you can get Golladay for a 3rd, I mean, he's a gamble, but it's a 3rd rounder. Who really cares? I like it, man. Thielen's another good one. Always underrated. Has been very good for a long time. It's nobody wants him. So I like them all. Kenny Golladay, I'm actually excited to see what he does this year if he can stay healthy. I mean, he had 2 WR1 seasons. It seems like a long time ago now, but hey, man, sometimes these guys rebound.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to say, just kind of on the flip side, trying to buy young, big-time upside players as a contender that jump out to me. I'll just go through them real quick. Quarterback, Trey Lance, has league-winning upside. Running back, Travis Etienne, league-winning upside, especially in
He's
PPR.
pricey though, man. He's pricey.
Yeah,
right now. People are jumping on.
I think all these guys are going to be pricey, but just on the flip side of gambling on the youth, Lance, Etienne, and I had a wide receiver, Gabriel Davis. Those would be my 3. Who knows, guys? But if they hit, you're going to look like a genius.
Yeah. If I was selling Davis, I would just tell my potential trade partner, like, hey, look at what he did in the playoffs.
Yeah, he looks like he might finally actually be their WR2, which, carries big time value with Allen and age. And yeah, again, I think all 3 of those guys are going to be relatively expensive, but I think if you are a Trey Lance believer, now's the time to buy him because there's
a lot of negative reports right now.
Which again, I think people in June get way carried away with that. Trey Lance is going to be their quarterback week 1.
They have to give him a shot. You can't pay that much to move up and grab him and bench him. You have to give him a shot. You'd be so foolish not to.
Yeah. And I think the smart GM, Dynasty GM in the offseason, this is when you capitalize because who cares what's being said in June? It doesn't. It's beat writers putting their stuff out. Who cares? You're not setting a lineup for 6 months. But Trey Lance 2 months ago, you couldn't have bought him for 2 first rounders. Now, who knows what you could buy him for?
So I like that. I wanted to about tight ends, but kind of in a different sense because I mean, you can't really buy veteran tight ends for cheap production because you can find those tight ends honestly like anywhere. So let's change this topic of conversation in regards to tight ends to who do you feel has a great shot at being productive this year that's not inside, the top 5, top 6, and you could probably imagine who those guys are. I'm going to throw out the first one, Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet, not just because I'm a huge Bears fan, but I think he has a lot of value to the offense because he is capable of blocking. He's okay at catching, but I think he's going to be a really big insurance plan for Justin Fields this year because an up-and-coming quarterback relies very heavily on their tight end, especially if they are a running QB, a big body out there to help, with screens or help blocking. They're a main component to that quarterback's offense. So I think Cole Kmet has a real shot at jumping up into like the tight end 8.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Mine would be David Njoku. I mean, they they gave him so much money. I mean, Cleveland makes no sense. I mean, you got a guy that you've never even allowed to be your starting tight end, and you just gave a ton of money to.
He's hella athletic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he is their starter this year. If Watson plays, I don't think Watson's going to play this year. But if he does,
man, geesh.
Yeah, if he does, great. If not, I still think they're going to force the ball to Njoku because you just paid him a ridiculous amount of money in a move that, I'm sorry, doesn't make much sense. Why haven't you given this kid the opportunity years ago?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know if he is your tight end that you want, and you just paid him a ton of money.
He's been in the league for like 6 years already, like 5 years.
And he's not old. He's not young, but he's not old because he came in so young. He is crazy athletic. You saw the one game last year, they did give him targets. What, he have like 6 grabs for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns or something? Like,
it's crazy.
He's got the ability, but